Welcome back, everybody, and thanks again for joining in and discovering these topics together. Today, I'd like to speak about the breath. It's widely discussed in the Tai Chi, Qigong, and meditation world. So before going in to the breathing techniques, I'd first like to ask you, on a daily basis, are you aware of your breath? When you go to work, in your car driving, are you paying attention to your breath? When you're having dinner, sitting around eating, are you paying attention to your breath? Do you feel your breath when you're in the shower? I don't mean actively trying to change your breath, control it, improve upon it. Just on a daily basis, are you feeling into your breathing? And this is where I'd like to begin. Not with technique, not with some fanciful visualizations, not with mechanics, with a single, sincere question to yourself. Can I feel into my breath? Because in Qigong, if you cannot feel, there is no awareness or sensitivity. Therefore, it is very hard to cultivate one's own inner awareness. Sensitivity is not a byproduct of practice. Sensitivity is the foundation of your Qigong and Tai Chi practice. My teacher often says, apart from gathering Qi, one of the first levels of Qigong is sensing Qi. So in this case, we must allow the breath to do what it already knows how to do. For instance, as a baby, did somebody teach you how to breathe? Did you study how to breathe in a manual? Did you go to special class as a baby? No. Your breath just happened. You didn't learn any special technique. It naturally occurred. You didn't have to learn some fancy reverse breath. It just naturally occurred as you went through your day-to-day life. The body already knows how to breathe. Our practice in Qigong is not to teach the body how to breathe, but to create the environment, the space, and the conditions in which natural breathing occurs, where the natural breath can re-emerge. So then why are we here talking about breathing? Because over the course of your lifetime, there's a lot of conditioning. There's a lot of social stress accumulating in the body. There's a lot of distortions and deviations of thoughts, ideas, emotions, feelings being held into the body. In Chinese medicine, this is stagnation of qi. Your posture collapses. Habits around tension starts forming. And layer by layer, the original breath becomes lost or buried deep inside. This is why in Qigong, we do not approach breathing as an active technique, something that we must learn to do and just follow that technique religiously, dogmatically. We approach it as something to be uncovered, discovered. We are not adding something new. We are becoming sensitive to something that's already there, whereby releasing what is in the way of our breath. Before we touch the breath, we gather awareness. In Taoism, this capacity of directed attention is called the yi, or the mind, the intentional mind. Yi is not rigid, nor is it forceful. It's not focused concentration or deep attention with the will. It is the gentle placing of awareness without changing the breath, without changing anything, without bringing in willful thought. However, you begin to notice, using your awareness, notice the breath. Where is it moving? In the chest? In the lower abdomen? Is it smooth or uneven? Fast or slow? Deep or shallow? Is there a sense of effort? So instead of trying to judge or fix it or change it, simply sense it. This gathering of awareness itself is a form of cultivation, building sensitivity, becoming more sensitive to the subtlety of your breathing, to the posture of your body, sensitive to the sinking of your breath. By bringing gentle attention and awareness to the breath, we begin to reconnecting with the living process within us. As we release tension and stop interfering, the breath returns to its natural state, natural cycle. Breathing in, feeling that space. Breathing out, feeling that space. I want to introduce you to the 5 qualities of breathing. But these are not goals. This is just a practice to allow you to return to your breath. The first quality is softness. The breath becomes gentle. There is no grasping on inhalation and no pushing on exhalation. It moves like silk unraveling without effort or interruption. Is there any force in your breath? Feel into it. Notice and allow as tension releases, the breath naturally slows. Slow down the breath. Not because you intentionally make it slower, but because the body relaxes, the nervous system begins to settle. The breath has no urgency, no haste. When the mind has no expectation and no urgency, the breath becomes slow. A need to get to the next inhale is what disrupts us. Release the need. Release the need to exhale completely. What happens if you allow the exhale to complete itself before the next exhale begins? And feel into that space between the breath. Now make your breath steady, a sense of continuity. The breath becomes even, like water dripping in a well in the dark. It's consistent, rhythmic, uninterrupted, very steady. It is not mechanical. It is a natural rhythm. It is the natural evenness that emerges when there's no effort and no longer the need to interfere. Does your breath simply melt away? Does it flow continuously as the breath now softens? So your breath must become soft. Remember, slow and steady. It becomes quiet. So imagine you put a feather before your nose and it barely moves. Your breath now becomes silent. Silence is a sign that effort has dissolved. Contraction is released, and the body is no longer working against itself. Can you hear your breath? What happens as you allow it to become more and more quiet? It becomes quieter. This leads to the deepest quality, a sense of subtlety. This cannot be forced. My teacher says to breathe deep. In advanced Taoist cultivation, the breath does not become big and large. It becomes increasingly subtle, deep, restful, almost imperceptible. This is not because you are holding your breath and intentionally hiding your breath, but because the body has now become so relaxed that the breath becomes so refined and harmonized that very little movement is now needed. Subtlety is not weakness. It is a graceful precision, soft, slow, steady, silent, and subtle. These 5 qualities, they're not a technique, they just describe what the breath looks like, feels like when we stop interfering with it. Feel into that sensitivity again. Okay, there was some things I just wanted to address from the last video about the 5 qualities. A lot of students will try to make these goals that they must reach, the goals of the 5 qualities of breathing. Please be mindful not to make these goals. Just allow the breath to become slow, soft, subtle, silent, and so on. The moment you force them, we move away from naturalness, or ziran. Instead, continue relaxing the body, sensing, resting, bringing more sensitivity and awareness. This is why I wanted to continue a little bit more about this breathing, so we are mindful not to make it another technique. I know in the last video I spoke about it as though it's something to aspire to, but just let the qualities naturally emerge themselves. In Taoism, we say try to trust the innate intelligence of life. When interference lessens, becomes less, natural function returns, following the naturalness of nature. So while we're here, I want to cover one of the first meditations I learned in my Qigong practice under Wu Dang principles. Shou Dan Tian, which means resting and bringing and settling the awareness in the Lower Dan Tian. This area is located in the lower abdomen, 2 finger breadths or widths below the belly button, and 2 or 3 finger breadths or inches internally towards the spine. So in the middle of the body, if you were to draw a cross section of the body, so the true center of the body. In classical cultivation, this is the root, but it's also the center, the space where foundation and cultivation sprouts, the ocean of Qi where cultivation flows from. Again, I'm just using some words here, but this is the center, the field, elixir field. So you want to breathe in to this field of energy. So again, without becoming a technique and forcing or creating unnecessary effort and contraction, just allow your breath to be naturally descended in a space where you find the dantian. Not in terms of an anatomical area, but just as a space, sensing that space, sensitivity, awareness, allowing the breath to naturally settle. A little bit of attention, a little bit of your intention, the yi, like snowflakes gently hitting the earth. Snowflakes gently floating. Let your breath softly, without force or without demand, expectation. As the yi rests in the dantian, the mind becomes quieter and quieter, more and more empty. The nervous system begins to settle, and the breath naturally descends downwards because the awareness has opened the way for the breath to flow in its natural state. To begin the practice, find yourself in a nice, comfortable sitting position, maybe a pillow under your butt or whatever is most comfortable for you. Sitting on a chair cross-legged, allow the spine to find its natural alignment. Not too bent, but also not too straight. Not too rigid. You also don't want to collapse yourself. My teacher says, sit like a bell that is broad at the base and gently lifted from the crown. Allow the shoulders to relax and soften and the chest to relax without collapsing. So relaxing the chest, not protruding, but also not completely collapsing. Let the lower abdomen and the ribs just relax. The pelvic floor remain relaxed, open, receptive. For now, the lips gently close and the tongue relaxing, even touching a little bit the upper palate. Again, these techniques is not regimented, just relaxing. You can close your eyes fully or partially. Partially closing your eyes, your gaze is downwards, down at the 45. And now you bring your intention gently, with some attention, allowing your awareness to relax, settle, descend into your dantian. Do not hold. Concentrate, no concentration, no forceful, deliberate breathing. Simply let your awareness rest there. Just like water sinking into a space. Now that the breath naturally sinks without managing it, allow the breath to move as it will. Become sensitive to your breath. Sensitive to the subtle feeling entering your nose, into your body. The soft, subtle air, coolness of the breath. Steady, quiet, and it becomes more and more subtle on its own, in its own time, naturally. You're not making the breath happen. You're allowing your breath to reveal itself. This is a practice of Shou Dan Tian. Remain here for as long as you feel comfortable. Building sensitivity, become sensitive to this area. Become sensitive to the relaxation and the settling of your body. After sitting in this way, even briefly, you will find your awareness becoming more subtle and sensitive. This is how your cultivation begins.